app with Christopher. And this is a wonderful project that LHM is also heavily involved in. So I'm going to pass over to Kerry.
Thank you, Lexi. All right, let me just share my slides. So hopefully you can see that. Yeah, can just somebody let me know that they can see?
Yep, it's up, Kevin.
Great, brilliant, thanks. So I can't see any of you now. All of a sudden my screen has changed. So my name's Kerry Gaskin. I'm a registered adult nurse and a children's nurse by background, and I've been working in cardiac since the 90s. I've worked in Oxford, in London at Great Ormond Street, and at Birmingham Children's Hospital before I moved into to academic and research. Um, 20 years ago now, which is quite scary. But I've been working with Little Hearts Matter for the last 20 years. And some of you will already know about this project because I have been to the open days before, as has Chris, my colleague, who's with me today. Now, Chris, can you speak? Because I know you were having some audio problems, weren't you? So,
Hoping so. Nobody hear me?
yay!
Yeah, brilliant. Okay.
Brilliant. Okay. So Chris, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. As Kerry mentioned, so my name is Chris. It's definitely Chris, not Christopher. Christopher is what I'm called when I'm in trouble. So my background is absolutely not in healthcare at all. Kerry drew me into this sector. I think around about coming on to
2018, I think.
Yeah, something like that. So my background is in computer science, in particular mobile app development and applications of machine learning and intelligent systems. So a very, very different kind of area, but a lot of those skills and that expertise has been incredibly useful in terms of application in this particular instance. Since working with Kerry, I'm now heavily working in healthcare applications. So this has had quite a big impact on my career overall, which is fantastic. But yeah, this was my first foray into healthcare.
Thank you. So we're going to talk to you a little bit about the Congenital Heart Assessment Tool. So Lexi's just mentioned the booklet, the Going Home from Hospital, and there is a mention of we'll call it the chat tool. There is a mention of that in that booklet as well. And Lexi also mentioned Amanda Daniels, and some of you that are in the Birmingham region will know Amanda as an advanced practitioner at Birmingham Children's Hospital in the cardiac unit. So Amanda was involved in this project with us when it started. Back in 2011, we actually started this project. We had a family day where we asked families to come and talk to us about their experience of going home with their baby for the first time. That was September 2011. I can't believe it was so far back. And then we did a survey out to members of Little Hearts Matter in 2012, and then following on from that, we created this tool in collaboration with parents from Little Hearts Matter, with Little Hearts Matter. So Susie was very heavily involved at the time, and also with clinicians. So this started at Birmingham Children's Hospital, and the mission really of this project is, as it says there, to improve the experience of going home from hospital for parents, but also for the healthcare professionals as well, so that we can improve we can empower parents to be able to know about what's wrong with their baby and what signs they need to look out for when they go home for the very first time after their baby's had that first surgery, and also to understand outcomes, but what they can do to try and help to recognise signs of deterioration and to act quickly. So it's all about escalating worries and concerns in a timely manner so that the healthcare professionals can intervene as quickly as possible to plan what's next. And so you'll know these babies go home, your babies, and some of you, it might be a long time ago, some of you, it might be more recently, with a home monitoring program. And that's slightly different depending on where you are in the country. But in essence, it's about those red flags, looking out for the red flags. And you might either go home with digital scales and oxygen saturation monitor. It might be community nurses that come in and do those checks for you. But we know that at that time and in that first year of life, babies are at their most vulnerable and you know, at risk of kind of deterioration in their condition. So we want to make sure that parents fully understand their baby's condition, that there's a clear pathway for them when they go home in terms of getting advice from the hospital and other community professionals. And what we found in our initial research is that the community health professionals sometimes lacked an adequate understanding of congenital heart disease, and particularly the complex congenital heart disease. We know it's a very frightening time for parents. They've told us that. And that there's this immense kind of responsibility for caring for your baby at home for the first time when you've been used to being in hospital with the nurses around you. Going home can be quite terrifying. So, as I say, back in 2012, we developed the Congenital Heart Assessment Tool, and it's a traffic light tool. And what we teach the parents now that go home using this, and that teaching starts or should start at least 5 days before being discharged home, is that if the symptoms are in the green column, everything is fine and you can carry on as normal. So it looks particularly at the baby's behaviour, at their skin colour and warmth, how the baby's breathing, oxygen levels, oxygen saturation. Now you'll be very aware of that. And then also, really importantly, how the baby's feeding, what their nappies are like, and how the parents feel about the baby, you know, things that are happening. So if anything moves into amber, so that might be that the baby's quieter than normal, or they seem a bit more breathless, or their breathing is faster or slower, then they'll be given contact details for the ward and the cardiac nurse specialist team, and they're advised to phone through for advice. If anything's in red, the advice is to ring for an ambulance straight away. So currently, the chat tool is used in several cardiac surgical centres across the UK. It's been used in Birmingham since 2013. And it's supported with research. So we've had funding through NIHR, the Health Foundation, and Heart Research UK. And we're now working with particularly Birmingham Children's, Great Ormond Street, Evelina Children's Hospital, and Leicester for this next stage of the project. But previously, we've also worked with Southampton and Newcastle hospitals there. So back in 2018, Chris and I started looking at getting funding to create an app, and that was based on the feedback that we'd had from parents and healthcare professionals in earlier parts of the study. And so parents said that what they really wanted was a digital solution rather than having a paper diary to go home with that gets lost or can, you know, you can forget to bring it with you. And they wanted something that they could hold in their hands that was digital and that could monitor the baby. So the same things as is in the chat, but in this online environment. And so we've worked with a cross-disciplinary team, and we're calling it Chat2MAR, which is its chat, so the Congenital Heart Assessment Tool. 2 is because it's now version 2 of that tool, and MA for mobile application. And so what we've done is worked with parents and healthcare providers and charities, so Little Hearts Matter and several other CHD charities as well, and building on the expertise that we had already, and brought Chris in at this stage as well to create this app, the prototype app. So we got funding in 2022 to create the app, and we spoke to parents and healthcare professionals at that time to find out what they would want in the app, and from that Chris created the prototype, and we did a little bit of testing. And then since then, we've been trying to get further funding. So this is our core team. So it started, as I say, back in 2012 with Susie, myself, David Barron, Amanda Daniels, and then and Joe Ray, and then the team has grown. And actually, there are more people. There's another slide a bit later on. So these are some of the people that are involved in this current grant application. So I'm just going to hand over to Chris for this next couple of slides.
Thank you. So as Kerry mentioned, we now have a prototype application. So this was developed with funding from NIHR in 2022. Predominantly, the purpose was to digitize the chat tool to form the Chat2 MAR application. But we also integrated a set of additional functions into the application that were co-designed with both parents and healthcare professionals. So that funding was predominantly about that co-design process. So defining what functions the app should perform. And that includes things like improvements over how we capture parental observations and monitoring of behavior, how that's reported to both parents and healthcare professionals. Improvements around onboarding, so integrating the onboarding process into the application so that it can be essentially integrated into the discharge process more seamlessly. And also, and then probably the one of the biggest areas we received feedback from parents and healthcare professionals on was around communication tools. So the app directly supports text communication and video chat between parents and healthcare professionals as well. So we're now at the stage where we're looking at the next steps. And the next steps for us are to essentially explore a clinical feasibility study where we want to find out, Kerry, if you can skip to the next slide, please. Thank you. Where we want to find out, there's three things that we're looking at. So one is, does this app improve the parental experience of home monitoring? And that's an important metric for us. A second metric is to look at the costs associated with this. So does this have cost benefits for both parents and also healthcare organisations? And finally, and perhaps most importantly, is does it actually impact on outcomes for both parents and infants directly? So infants, there's more obvious impacts in terms of outcomes, but with parents, it's more aligned to their experience and their preferences.
Thanks, Chris. So as part of this project, we've got a parent advisory group, and Lexi is leading that for us, alongside a colleague of mine from Birmingham City University, Dr. Lara Alamad. So she'll be leading from kind of the academic perspective, and Lexi leading from the parent kind of charity facing perspective. And so the work of the advisory group is going to be throughout the whole 3 years of the project. They will guide everything that we do, everything will be co-produced, and will help us as well at each stage of the project to do some engagement and activities with parents and families to find out what they think about the kind of further development of the app. And then, as Chris said, we'll do a clinical feasibility study where we actually test the app. So we're particularly looking for parents that would like to join this advisory group. They've got experience of going home from hospital with their baby, that are interested in developing technology and helping us with that. But we're particularly looking for parents that live in rural areas, because obviously we need to be able to test utilising an app on a phone in an area where connectivity might be more difficult or hard to access areas, and particularly from Black and Asian families as well. So those that represent the non-English speaking families. We've got a PhD study running in parallel to this, which one of my PhD students is looking at the experience of South Asian families across the West and the East Midlands, and that's happening at the moment, and that will come back into this project. So just quickly, I'm aware of the time. The clinical feasibility study, which if we can get the funding, it will be summer 2027, and in that we'll be recruiting families from 4 hospitals, so Birmingham Children's, Great Ormond Street, Leicester, and Evelina Children's, both in London. And we're aiming to get about 60 families recruited to test the app alongside normal clinical care. So that will be all of families that are going home with their baby, where they're going to be on a home monitoring programme. These are some of our other collaborators locally that are helping us with the kind of commercialisation, intellectual property, and regulatory elements of the project. And then just finally to give you some kind of other kind of good news. So the chat itself is being used internationally. So we've had contact from China, this is Vietnam. So from Vietnam, it's been translated into Vietnamese. It's also been translated into Chinese. And actually, I've just this week had another request from someone else in China. And then we've also had contact from lots of other places across the world, Brazil, India, Australia, and North America and Canada as well. So it's really great that something that started in Birmingham is having an international impact for families and obviously to keep these babies safe. So there you go. That's the end of our talk. And just really, if there's any questions, if you've got time.
That's brilliant. Thank you, Kerry. I'm sure we all agree that's not only a great talk, but it's also a brilliant step forward for home monitoring. Before we
I'll stop sharing.
before we move on into our workshop and stuff, this is a really good opportunity if anyone's got any questions for Kerry and Chris, not Christopher, about the chat app, or to me about service, or to Rob, if anyone's got any questions at all. I'm sure. Oh, no. Please do pop them in the chat, or if you'd like to say them, you can raise your hand. That's okay too. Any questions? If not, I'm going to take it as a win that everything was explained correctly. Oh, Mandy's raised her hand. Mandy, have you got a question?
Hello there. Hi everyone. So thank you. That was just amazing, amazing, Kerry. So I have lots of questions, but I don't want to kind of sort of take over this whole thing here. So it was just sort of, I just sort of curious about the app because I think it's fantastic. Obviously, being a heart parent myself, and from the perspective of when my daughter was born in 2011, and it just took me back to the fact that doing everything by paper in terms of capturing all the data for the local community team that was supporting me here in Kent, and seeing that sort of come to fruition, and and where that's going, I think that's fantastic. It's amazing. And the sort of the question I sort of had was, is this an open application? I just This is my little techie brain going on now, so I do apologise if is it something that other people will be able, if it's open source, will be able to build upon this?
Chris, do you want to answer?
That might be for me, wouldn't it? It's not. It is a closed source application at this point, and that's partly because of just how our research is funded and the IP arrangements around that. So at the moment, we can't just broadcast the source of the application.
Right.
But in terms of open, in terms of access for users, the ultimate intention is that this would be an app available in the App Store. Its functionality will be restricted based on the parents' relationship with the hospital and the healthcare team. So the app itself, before it's connected in and set up with the healthcare team, will provide very, very limited functionality. So it does require that existing relationship with healthcare professionals.
Of course. And I also recognise, obviously, from where studies and clinical studies are being created and sort of capturing that data. So my second question was see, Rob and Lexi kind of sort of know in the background that I'm going to be starting university this year, and I want to, and it's in psychology and learning disabilities, studying also neurodivergence. And it is very much stems from how that impacts single ventricular hearts. And I suppose in some ways I'm stepping probably about another sort of 10 years ahead effectively in terms of when I'm thinking of this app and future collaboration perspectives in terms of how that, is there a way of you're going to be or thinking about adding other elements? So you've got the pediatric side in terms of baby going home, but will that then effectively be built upon so we can capture data in terms of the neurodevelopment perspective?
That's
of the
that
child?
that's a great question, and it's absolutely something that we're thinking about because, obviously the number of babies that are born with really complex heart problems is quite small, and therefore, from a kind of commercialization perspective, you need to be able to build something that has usability for as many people as you can really. So we certainly have been talking about the longer term and kind of how we might be able to develop the app so that it was available for, not just in that first year of life after that first surgery, in between first and second surgery, but after second surgery, and then maybe even after the Fontan third surgery as well. So
Sorry.
yeah, absolutely. But get in touch with Lexi and come and join our parent advisory group. There you go, and then you can
Well,
help us.
well, my next this is why I said I didn't want to take up. I had like a list of questions there. It's just it was just a case of the other thing was obviously you've sort of outlined for Black and Asian perspective as well. Now, are you looking for parents that have obviously, like I said, my daughter's 14 now, so am I sort of like too far ahead, or is that something that I can still contribute to in terms of bringing a voice to that? And how often does that, how are you planning on doing that? Is it a monthly thing, or obviously because my commitments are like just woo, but I'm sort of, on this journey with you guys. That's why I'm here as well as a parent, and also hopefully to be able to lend some extra skills as well.
Brilliant. Well, why don't we have a chat outside of this meeting today,
Cool.
and then we can talk about it in more
Yeah,
detail.
I can
Yeah.
connect. I can
absolutely.
connect you both after this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
brilliant.
Okay.
Wonderful. Thank you,
Thank
Lexi.
you. Thank
Okay.
you.
And then Ash has got a hand up as well.
Hey, so I was thinking about the strategy about intersectionality and about like healthcare equality, and you were talking about sort of like the diversity of groups. One of the challenges when you're looking at intersectionality is language as well as like culture and things. And I'm just wondering about where that sits with this and where you are in your own kind of formulation of that, because it is actually part of the strategy that we've got moving forward. So yeah, it was just a question around that.
We really want, because I think the original study that I did in 2013, I did have a variety of parents involved in that, but majority of them were white parents. And so, we know that there's differences in terms of health inequalities for different groups. So it's not just about ethnicity. It's, I mean, I'm here in the West Midlands. We've got the highest infant mortality rate in England, and that's to do with poverty and social deprivation. And so we need to think about digital literacy, about digital poverty. Can people get access to digital devices? We need to think about neurodiversity. We need to think about other kind of learning. We've got language. We've got lots of things to be thinking about. So we absolutely are committed to looking at how do we develop something that is suitable for the majority. So I think, yeah, we're definitely looking at that, and I think that's the benefit of the app, isn't it, Chris? Is that actually you can create an app that meets lots of different needs. So certainly, yeah.
So just to quickly add, yeah, so integrated language support, I think our current plan is 10 languages in the initial release. Yeah, so 10 supported languages within the application on release. But also we're actively developing the application so it will run on quite dated hardware. So you don't need the latest iPhone to be using the application. It will run on sort of 10-year-old devices without too much of an issue.
Because I've been talking to two things. I've been talking to the National Lottery about like health inequality, how we can align our strategy more with that. I'm also working actually in my day job. I've got a project with Staffs University, and it's a really similar project, but it's not the same health problems. It's about health inequality, and one of the biggest challenges is different community groups, the sheer difference between a white human right the way through to all those different, from refugees to the project is being derailed really in some respects by the fact that actually there isn't the diversity is so wild. And how do you bring sort of, you get a commonality but you don't actually get intersectionality? So it's an interesting space that you're in, and I think there's probably some shared learnings from some of the
Absolutely. And I think that's why we need diversity in our parent advisory group, because it is unfortunately one of the things with research is you get a lot of white families, but you don't get families representing all of the other groups, not just, as I say, ethnicity. You know, you mentioned kind of, well, traveling families, migrant family, you know, there's such a wide range of views that we need to represent. So we're really conscious of that.
Thank you.
Anyway, I'm conscious that we're taking
Yeah,
up a lot of your time as well.
I'm
So
gonna cut it short. It's a very interesting subject. But if anybody is interested in this, please do send me an email, or you know, go onto the contact us section on the website if you don't have my email. I'm sure most people have. And we can definitely connect those dots. But we are going to be moving on simply because of time. We are now moving on, I believe, into our workshops.